Hey, what's up, pro wrestling fans? Welcome to the Nation's Corner. I am Front Row, and with me, as always, Tony Justice, the greatest truck driver of all time, Debhausen, the great and powerful. What's up, people?
What's happening?
What's up? How you doing?
I'm still getting over this stupid cold, so I'm going to try not to cough in y'all's ears tonight.
Okay.
But we'll
Appreciate
power
that.
through. I'll tell you, man, it's been an exciting week. Like, all the stuff that's going on in wrestling, you've got Bound for Glory, AEW, Extreme Rules, Raw, SmackDown. Like, there's all kinds of stuff going on across the landscape of pro wrestling. And there's probably a bunch of other stuff, too. I do want to jump into a lot of the stuff that we're going to look forward to tonight at Extreme Rules. And I know we're going to talk about some AEW. But before we get into all that, I did want to give a shout out to everybody in our chat. I see Neil and Elder Mike and who else we got in here? Ashley.
Ash.
Man, everybody's in there.
Yeah.
And of course, Mrs. Front Row is always watching in the background, keeping a close eye on us, making sure we don't get into trouble.
Yeah. Don't put me in timeout, please.
Yeah. No.
Something that happened this week. I watched
Scotty!
Scotty's
in the chat.
Nice.
What's up, man? Make sure that bathroom door is locked.
Yes. Lock the bathroom stall,
Locked.
Scott.
Nice. So on the Mission Pro Wrestling live stream this week, they announced some of the matches for the upcoming Silver Bells 2 pay-per-view that a bunch of us are going to be going to Texas to see. And I just briefly wanted to touch on that before we jump into the other stuff. And it's some exciting matches. We got Emmy Camacho versus Jade. I'm not as familiar with Jade, but Emmy's wrestled there before. Jasmine Allure versus MJ Santana, both Mission Pro alumni. But the main event that was announced this week is Genocide will be defending her new Mission Pro Wrestling Championship. The championship's not new. She's a new champion against Demon Janai Kai. And for those of you who have been paying attention, Janai Kai is like no joke. So
Yeah.
I'm super excited for that matchup. And of course, Dave LaGreca and JP have an ongoing disagreement over some stuff. They touched on it on Bust Open last week. I don't think they talked about it on the show this week, unless I missed it. But they had a lot of guests on the show, so probably didn't get a chance to talk about it. So keep your ears peeled, and we'll figure out what's going on. I know Dave's got a pretty deep contacts list, so I'll be interested to see who he's able to get for a partner.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about AEW. Before we dive into all the stuff that's really exciting, my biggest issue with AEW right now, I absolutely love the matches. I love all the stuff that they're doing. What I see on my TV is exciting and fun. I'm just waiting for them to tell me stories that make me have to watch. They're not making me have to pay attention to everything they're doing. So that's one of my only complaints. That and the focus on the women's division is what it is. So let's go through some of the stuff that we really enjoyed.
So basically there was a couple big things on AEW Dynamite this week. Let me pull up the card here. Wheeler Yuta and MJF had a great match. MJF looks fantastic. I'll just say it. MJF looks amazing. I saw that, Tony. That was good. Wheeler Yuta has been super impressive lately. I think he's impressed all of us. He did an interview on Busted Open the other day that was just really, really nice to hear a young guy say things like that about listening to veterans and all that stuff. I think that match was one of the highlights of Dynamite. What did you guys think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I've been a big fan of Wheeler Yuta. I've seen him in the independent circuits. I've seen him in Ring of Honor, at PWX here in Charlotte, and to see him how he's progressed through his Ring of Honor time and the stuff he's doing in AEW. We know he's a talented in-ring performer, but he's starting his last 2 outings on the mic. and leading up to this week's match, I think he's taken huge steps forward. Bully touched on it on the show this week too, about how much he's progressed in such a short period of time. So, man, a guy so young in his position with all the talents that he has, I just give me more Wheeler Yuta.
Right. Yeah. Tony?
He's definitely getting a better outing than when he was with the Best Friends. He's definitely getting to show his more aggressive side with Blackpool Combat Club. And I think when we heard his interview on Busted Open earlier this week, it helped to kind of get a little bit more invested into Wheeler Yuta. And I thought he had a great match against MJF Wednesday night. It was just hard hitting. Yes, it was MJF's first match back from being gone for a long time. So I saw where, Bully was talking about how he saw a little bit of ring rust with MJF and people were noticing it as well. But I think it's going to happen, and I think it didn't really take away from the match too much. I thought that it was just an awesome match, and I loved how it finished because MJF was cranking on his arm, and then he went back and kind of readjusted and cranked even more back. Where I mean, come on, I mean, your arm getting pulled back like that. I mean, anybody's going to tap because that is, you could definitely see all the tension being put on that arm. So I thought it was a great opening match. Yeah, arm bar.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. It was a great match, and I think they're both of them are just shining right now. Now, the other big thing that happened on Dynamite this week was National Scissoring Day. Everybody loves the Acclaimed, for real. Everybody looks good in pink. It's true. And
I've never worn pink. Never.
All right, we got to change that.
Yeah, we got to fix that.
Yeah, we got to change that. Real men wear pink, Tony. Real men wear pink. Everybody looks good in pink. Okay. So so we know the Acclaimed is just super over right now. Everybody's loving it. I think this is just the greatest thing I think we've seen on the entertainment side of AEW in a while. I know we were talking about it on Zoom the other night. We thought that it was probably the greatest in-ring talking segment that they've possibly ever had.
On AEW, yeah.
Yeah, on AEW. Yeah. So yeah, I'm just so excited for Max Caster and Anthony Bowens. I think both of them are incredible talents, and it was just like fate that they were matched up together. What do you guys think?
It harkened back to the Attitude Era.
Yeah, and there was a couple moments in that I don't even call it a promo. It was a address. They addressed the audience, right? I absolutely popped as someone who grew up Catholic when Max Caster said, and at this point in the service, I want you to turn to your neighbor. Like, I immediately was back in church, and it was just such a funny, it was irreverent, but it wasn't disrespectful, but it was really like a nod. I thought that line was incredibly funny, and everything that Billy Gunn was doing behind them, you had to pay attention if you go back and watch. He was so animated. He didn't away from what they were saying, but I think he's a big part of what they're doing. As an ally, like to see Anthony Bowens in this position to be, and they said he was the first openly gay AEW champion. I don't know if Nyla fits that bill as a trans.
Well, she would be classified as trans, not gay.
True, but she has a wife, so
right. Yeah, that's a little gray area.
The point is that it's a very cool thing that they're able to just, here we are in 2022, and it's a happy thing. That makes me happy.
Yeah. And Anthony Bowen's speech on that he put up on Instagram, just it kind of made me cry. I think he's awesome. I in fact sent the video to my mom. And my mom knows nothing about wrestling, so I sent her the video and said, this is one of my favorite wrestlers who just won the championship, and this is what he said. And she replied back to me and said, that's really awesome. That's pretty cool. I think we're just all loving it. I don't have anything bad to say about it. I don't have any real like critique on the whole thing.
Yeah, it took me back to the Attitude Era, back when DX did their State of the Union behind the podium. That's what it took me back to. Plus, you have a member of DX with the Acclaimed, not Mr. S, but Daddy S. So yeah, I mean, it's just connecting the dots. You could tell they definitely had their influence from DX, and plus with Daddy S being with them, helping them along.
For sure.
It's just it makes you look forward to what's gonna happen next, because they are so hot. I made the comment a few weeks back about how the Acclaimed are the new age outlaws.
Yeah.
They're just as over as the New Age Outlaws. They have their own catchphrase. They have something that, basically you have Max Caster coming out rapping, whereas you had Road Dogg coming out doing his spiel on the mic from the back, coming down to the ring. So it just connects the dots, and I'm just so happy.
Yeah.
Well, I gotta get your take on this. The only thing I didn't care for was Billy Gunn doing not only part of the DX bit, but also doing the Rock's catchphrase. I don't know. It was fun, I guess, probably in the moment, but I'm like, you don't steal the Rock's catchphrases. He will tell you. You don't steal the Rock's catchphrases.
He would say gimmick infringement.
Probably. I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
Gimmick infringement. I'm not a wrestler. I don't know those terms.
Yeah. And the only other thing I want to say on it is, they had a little discussion on Busted Open Thursday morning about, scissoring. And obviously we know what the term really means, but, it's being made into just a fun thing. And so Bully had said that someone had said that their kid came up to them and said, "What's scissoring?" I don't know if so John Bay is in our chat, and I know he commented that on my Twitter post that night. So I don't know if that's the comment that Bully saw or if it was someone else. But like John said, you just tell them it's a fun greeting, like a handshake, but fun. I don't see the issue with it. I think like people have to make such a big deal over little things like that when like your kid watches that segment on TV. You don't have to sit down with them and have like a whole grown-up discussion about it's just fun. Like, let it be fun. You don't have to tell them what that term means in the other sense,
Did we have,
like Ash said, you don't got to go that deep.
This isn't the Attitude Era. Like, there aren't 80% of your kids watching this. Like, back then, everything that happened on Raw was in school the next day. I mean, there's just not that viewership.
Right. Yeah. It's different. And plus I had said, don't have kids. I had said in the chat in Discord on Thursday morning while they were discussing it, I think kids in schools these days do and say a lot worse stuff. And anyone who has kids that have grown up into preteen years recently knows this. Like, you have kids in school doing like active shooter training. I never had to do that when I was a kid, but you have 10, 12-year-olds now doing active shooter training in school. I think saying scissor me and doing this is like the least of their worries.
Well, did we have kids back in the day asking their parents what suck it meant while the kids are at school getting put in detention?
Right.
I mean, you know what? It's up to the parent to monitor what their child watches and doesn't watch. You know what I mean? So yeah. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's just another facet of what we grew up with, the Attitude Era. There was worse stuff happening in the Attitude Era. I mean, there was handprints on Sable's, area. So I mean, it's just there's way, this is just another chapter of it. So I think just let the people entertain. It's up to the parents to monitor what their children watch and what it's up to the parent to what they explain to their kids. I mean, it's not our job to
I'm not a parent for a reason. I don't want my television shows that I choose to watch to be censored because someone else is upset about their kid. If you feel like your kid is too young for that, don't let them watch it.
Yep.
Yeah, it just comes down to that. Like they rate the TV shows. The TV shows have a rating for a reason. They're TVMA,
Right.
TV, 13 or whatever. They're there for a reason.
Steve.
Oh, Steve. I'm not putting that up on the screen, Steve. Sorry. But it is.
See you in a few days, Steve.
To your point, like it just comes down to parents, paying attention to what their kids are watching, and like Ash says, just tell them don't do it at school. Like this is a fun wrestling thing, and if they're too young to understand what it means in the adult world, that's not we don't explain that stuff. There's lots of stuff that goes on that goes over kids' heads. So
right.
It's fun.
But I mean, you watch SpongeBob, and they've said and done worse things on SpongeBob.
Yeah. I did think that was a fun segment. And I know there was a bunch of other stuff that we wanted to get to, but I do want to just jump real quick to the women's tag match.
Sure.
Why did this happen? Like it was an okay match for what it was, but it didn't make any sense. Like, why are they, if the women's division has such limited time on TV, every time they're on there should be furthering a storyline instead of just throwing 4 people in the ring and hoping for the best and who cares who wins. It makes no sense to me.
I think that's exactly what's wrong with the AEW women's division, is that there's no like cohesive story. There's no flow. There's no like, okay, this match is happening for this reason. It's just it's what we dealt with WWE for quite a long time of, well, we have 8 women on the roster, so let's just put them in a 4 against 4 match every week. And it just doesn't mean anything. There's no explanation. There's no story to go along with it. Let's just throw them all in a ring, 4 on 4, and whoever wins, wins. And it doesn't really matter who wins.
You could have more stories with the women's division of the AEW if you broke apart the Mean Girls group of Britt, Jamie, and Rebel. You could break Jamie and Britt up and have a story told with them two, because it's coming.
Yeah.
But I don't know why they keep them together. It's like you could tell so many stories by just splitting that Mean Girls faction up, and then have the other stories with the other women, and then plus you have Thunder waiting in the wings whenever she comes back. You're gonna have a story with that too. So I mean, there's just so much potential, but they decide to keep that Mean Girls group together, and
I feel like
just watching fucking excuse my French. They're watching freaking matches with all the women in tag matches. Come on.
Yeah, dang, okay.
Damn.
Alrighty then.
Pissed in your cornflakes.
Are you pissed?
I'm pissed.
You're pissed. Yeah, I agree with Mrs. Front Row there. It shows a lack of confidence in the talent. Like when you don't have the confidence in the talent to be able to do what they're supposed to do, then that's what you get. You get them just in random matches. I feel like for whatever reason, Britt is the only one that he has confidence in. And I think he wants to keep those girls flanking her to kind of like, show that she's strong. Because it seems every women's segment just boils down to Britt and her crew interrupting for some reason and cutting a promo that basically is kind of like the same kind of promo she did the previous week. So that's just what I've noticed recently. Like I'm still a fan of, Britsburg. I got my DMD, towel up here, but I just think I think she has shown her limitations. Like, when she first kind of turned heel and her mic work just wasn't that good. It's like she wasn't really in tune with that character, and then it got pretty good. And I think that's it's shown that that's the only kind of promo that she can do. It's just very formulaic at this point.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
and there's
agree.
there's a handful of women there that are at that elite level in the ring. I know they have a lot of confidence in Hikaru Shida and
Hmm.
Thunder and Riho and Mercedes Martinez. There's those people. Britt is a character. She's not at that level in the ring, but she is a superstar in that company. But
Right.
they've sort of run through the stories with her. And even next week's matchup, they go, all right, we're going to do another tag team. We're going to do Jamie and Britt versus Tony Storm and Hikaru Shida. Well, on paper, Tony Storm and Hikaru Shida are going to run over those two.
Right.
Yeah, that matchup. Well, I'm sure it's going to be fun. Like, why? Unless
Yeah.
we're headed towards the eventual Jamie and Britt breakup, and that's going to be the vehicle that gets us there. Then okay, now we've got a story. Now I'm interested.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
love to see Jamie have a run at that interim title, and maybe even run with the interim title while Thunder's healing up. And shout out to Thunder Rosa. I know she's doing her physical therapy and
Yeah.
doing all that stuff. I
Working
know
on getting better.
she is. I know, big shout out to her. She spoke at UC Berkeley on Thursday for a Women of Color athletes symposium. So she's
Nice.
going to put a bunch of stuff up on her vlog next week. So keep an eye out for that. But
Sweet.
I will say, on the positive note, and I know I'm going to jump ahead for a second. I've been Mrs. Front Row and I have been big fans of Willow Nightingale, and she's been here in Queens of Combat. She's been in Mission Pro Wrestling, and she's had a big showing in AEW. She's been on
Hmm.
TV like the last at least 3 weeks, and her match with Jade, man, she got a lot of offense in on Jade,
Yeah.
and I think they must really like her to let her go, a bunch of extra minutes and have the match that she had. Yeah, she lost, but it's the whole, someone went over and someone got over. So
Right.
I did really like that this week.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree with that. I think she's getting a spotlight that she definitely deserves right now. And she's
Yeah,
earned it.
yeah, I enjoy seeing Willow in the ring. She's got a personality, and it comes through in whatever she does in the ring and in vignettes and stuff. So yeah, I'm all for
Yeah.
Willow.
All right. I think that's all that we wanted to discuss on AEW. So, do you want to move on to our Extreme Rules predictions?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's so much going on. Even before we get to the predictions, the big storyline has been this White Rabbit thing, and we've been talking about it every week. And I know, Tony, you want to talk about why don't you talk about the opening segment, because I know you had a couple of thoughts on that from SmackDown.
Yes, yes. So I was at the Iowa 80 truck stop in Walcott, Iowa last night. You hear the commercials on Busted Open for Iowa 80, but what they fail to tell you about the Iowa 80 is that the signal sucks. Sucks. I wasn't able to watch Impact last night. I wasn't able to watch
Yeah.
SmackDown, Rampage, Battle,
Pretty
nothing.
yes.
So I had to call on Zoom on my phone, and like I was on a 3 hour long phone call on my phone. So I just logged off early. Frick it. So I watched SmackDown today, and Triple H had an opening segment last night, and he said the words, and I will quote: "There will come a time when you believe that everything is finished, but that is the beginning." So while he was saying this, he had the microphone in his hand. He dropped the microphone, switched it. There was a QR code on the microphone, which I didn't even see when I was watching the promo because I was too focused on Triple H and too focused on the pop he was getting and how hot the crowd was. I didn't even
Yeah.
notice the QR code. So I didn't even get to follow it. I know y'all did. But, we could say, what does he mean by that? You may, there will come a time when you believe that everything is finished. I don't know what that means. That is so blanketed. That is so, just like the QR code. It is so like it'll make you wonder and think that okay, something's up, because we have
Mhm.
Extreme Rules tonight. We all know that the White Rabbit thing is probably going to get revealed tonight, which more than likely, because that's all the QR codes is saying is the date
Mhm.
tonight. Just how they're going to do it though. But I was telling Deb in Front Row earlier before the show started on how excited I am that Triple H and Stephanie are in control of WWE now, and it's like a security blanket. you know, and I just am so happy that we have Triple H and Stephanie at the head of the ship, and just everything they've been doing ever since they took over, the White Rabbit stuff, all this stuff, it's leading to somewhere, and
Mhm.
I cannot wait for Extreme Rules tonight.
Yeah.
That's the point I was just trying to make.
I agree. And so we caught up on SmackDown earlier this afternoon because we were watching Impact last night. So we didn't watch SmackDown or Rampage last night. By the way, little side note, Impact Bound for Glory was an absolutely amazing show. Chad and Neil looked like they had an awesome time. And Bully Ray is back. So yeah.
Yes. Cheers to that. Cheers to that.
Cheers to that. Bully Ray is back in Impact Wrestling, and it's 2022, and he looks good too. He looks very, very good.
Yeah, he's in good shape.
Yep.
I'll say he looked great. So, yeah. Anyway, so we were watching SmackDown this afternoon, and so when Triple H opened the show, I said to Seth, like, it didn't dawn on me before that this is the first time Triple H has been on TV since, taking over. And the crowd pop was huge. They were chanting for him. It was great. And so what he said there will come a time when you believe that everything is finished, but that is just the beginning. I think that means like a lot of people, myself included, had almost written off WWE. I, like, you guys know, I didn't watch Raw for the most part in probably the last year and a half, 2 years. I decided not to watch it because it didn't interest me. So I decided to stop watching it. And SmackDown, like, I watched probably about half the time. Like, if we went out to dinner and we didn't catch it, I didn't really care. But now I am watching Raw and SmackDown every single week since Triple H took over, and there's been a huge difference. And I think this is, obviously this is the beginning of a new era. Vince was the head honcho, the last line of defense for so many years. He was running the entire ship, and now he's not there. And so I think, and I've been saying this among, my other friends that I used to watch wrestling with here. I've been saying that I couldn't wait till Triple H came in charge because I think that's like, it was the foregone conclusion. Like, everybody knew once Vince stepped down, retired, passed away, whatever, that Triple H and Stephanie were going to, take charge. I think everybody kind of just assumed that. That's the logical choice. So now that we're seeing it come to fruition, like, it's made me a fan of WWE again. Like, I'm watching again. I'm excited about it again. The stories are interesting again. They're showing you things that are making you do research online.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Do your homework.
We used to watch wrestling with our oldest son, and then he sort of fell off, and he doesn't follow anything wrestling related anymore. And over the last couple of weeks, every time we hang out, he's like, "Man, I'm seeing all this WWE stuff is bleeding into other areas of entertainment, and there's such a buzz about the company right now that it's really starting to grow and grow. Obviously, the viewership's up, like the social media engagement is way up, merchandise sales are crazy, like the honorary Oos stuff that they're doing."
Oh my God, I gotta buy this shirt.
We're going to get into the bloodline stuff in a minute, but they connect the dots. They're telling stories that make me want to watch every week. They're giving us cliffhangers, and they're developing characters that make me care. And it's an exciting time because there were a lot of times when we would watch Raw and SmackDown and enjoy them for what they were, but then you kind of just move on. Now I'm sitting there going, man, they sowed so many seeds over the last 2 shows this week that I can't wait to see the pay-per-view tonight, but I also am excited to see what they're going to do on Monday.
Yeah.
So I agree. Like, I think that the creative control under Triple H and obviously Stephanie at the helm, man, it's light years better than it used to be.
Yeah.
But why don't we jump into the card a little bit? And I want to ask a question, okay? Because Mark talked about this today on the show. Let's assume, let's fantasy book that we're going to get a reveal for the White Rabbit tonight. And if you're going to do that, if you do it at the beginning or the middle, you're going to what did he say? Steal the signal. You're going to you hijack the signal is what he said. In wrestling, he said it's called hijacking the signal, and that's when you do something
Shout out
big.
the hijacker.
That's when you do something
Yes.
that then takes over all of the concentration of the fans for the rest of the show, which basically screws up everything for the other performers. So the Bray Wyatt stuff, if it's Bray, has to be at the end of the show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking at this card, and to me, the biggest match on this card from a championship perspective is Liv versus Ronda for the Raw Women's Championship
Right.
in an Extreme Rules match. Well, it wouldn't make any sense to put the reveal after that match. So it's I'm going to be really interested to see what order they do everything in. And the fact that we have two really high profile women's championship matches, one's a ladder match and one's an Extreme Rules match. Man, I don't know. I see a lot of opportunities here for match of the night. So where should we start, Tim?
Well, first, before we get into the card, I just want to preface by saying I'm really digging the whole. I got the pre-show up on my TV right now on mute. I'm digging the whole like color scheme with the Hardy's colors, and I've been kind of wondering if them using the Hardy's colors as this year's color scheme and not doing the red like they've been doing for Extreme Rules, if that's like an homage to the Hardys in some way. I don't know.
I think it's the DX colors, right?
What?
I think it's primarily the DX colors.
The green and purple?
Well, the green was DX and DX.
Oh, yeah. But the green and purple is the Hardys colors. I mean, like True. I just did my nails today for October, so I got my funky Halloween nails, and nice. Just so happened that it was the same green and purple, and I did my makeup in that style too today. But yeah, I'm loving the whole color scheme. I love the change in the design from what we're used to seeing of Extreme Rules. I love that each match is a stipulation match and they're not all just an Extreme Rules match. Because that's one of my biggest gripes about Hell in a Cell is that they have Hell in a Cell matches that like I don't feel really warrant being a Hell in a Cell match, Yeah. So yeah, I like that it's only 6 matches from what the card lists, and that each of them are different types of stipulation matches. So I like the way this whole thing's been executed so far.
Yeah,
agreed.
I want to preface something too before we get into the predictions. I tweeted out earlier today during Busted Open this morning. Okay, so y'all remember WCW Uncensored 1997, where the NWO was in the main event. It was Rodman. Dennis Rodman was there with Hogan.
Oh, that's when he skipped the playoffs to go to WWE.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they left the ring after the match and were walking to the back. And so Tony Schiavone was there was a wide shot of the ring and the crowd. And Tony Schiavone was basically saying, thank you everyone for joining us for Uncensored tonight, blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden you heard a boom. And the next thing you know, you see the camera pan up and Sting is rappelling down from the rafters into the middle of the ring with his trench coat on and everything. He pulls off the freaking harness and he's standing there with his bat. And the NWO was on the ground looking up at him like, holy crap, So they get in the ring and they get their ass whooped. But I'm saying this because we thought Uncensored was over and it was going to go to black. And all of a sudden you saw Sting come down. So I feel like we're going to front where you were saying they can't do it in the beginning or the middle of the pay-per-view because it'll take everyone's attention away from the pay-per-view because everybody will be scrolling or whatever they're doing, trying to do research. If it happens at the very end, because I saw people saying that what if they do the main event with the strap match being the main event with Karrion Kross and Drew McIntyre, but I don't think that's going to be the main event because why would you put that as the main event? There's titles being defended. So no.
Right.
Why would you do that? I feel like at the very end of the pay-per-views, we're gonna get our reveal. But anyway, that's what I wanted to say. Just about that.
Yeah, and it's interesting because they've done that in the NXT too. If you remember when Sami Zayn won the title and they were about to go off the air, Kevin Owens came out and celebrated with him, and then the logo came up and they were about to go, and Kevin turned around and he started attacking Sami. And that was after the credits, after the logo. They were about to go dark. So yeah, they've done that a few times. That's an interesting thing. I do want to mention here something that Mongrovian Mike says, that the White Rabbit is not Bray. I agree. I don't think the White Rabbit is Bray. White Rabbit is leading us to Bray. So
Yes.
Are we going to get a reveal of the White Rabbit but not Bray? Maybe. And if so, is that Alexa Bliss? Is that somebody else? I know they had the stuff with Asuka, and specifically during the women's matches, they've had lighting and different things going on. Even to the point last night during SmackDown, they had an actual person in a White Rabbit costume during the commercial break and then sitting behind commentary.
That's kind of creepy.
Yeah. I agree that I don't think the White Rabbit is Bray. I think the White Rabbit is a herald. So, but if they don't reveal Bray, but they reveal the White Rabbit tonight, and there's that's just the next chapter, I'm fine with it. Just give me more story. I'm all for it.
A clue.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Blue.
You're my boy, Blue.
So it's about 15 more minutes. I want to make sure folks have a couple minutes to get their snacks and get to the pay-per-view. So let's run down this card. I did want to specifically say that this fight pit match with Matt Riddle and Seth Rollins is really interesting to me, because the Matt Riddle and Timothy Thatcher match in NXT, the first fight pit match that they had, was really, really creative. It was hard hitting. It was technical. It was a little bit of MMA, a little bit of blood sport, a little bit of WWE mixed in. No, this is Riddle's bread and butter. This is what he's really good at. But Rollins has never had this kind of match, as far as I know.
Right.
So I don't know. How do you guys think he's going to fare here?
Oh boy. Well, first, I think it's going to be a good fight because their promos back and forth have gone a little personal.
Yep.
I think they're both going into it with an aggressive mindset. We got Daniel Cormier as the special guest referee, which I'm excited about that. You guys know I don't care for MMA or UFC, but I know who he is just because of the few minutes here and there that I have to listen to MMA Today after Busted Open goes off the air.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's going to be a great match, and I kind of feel like Seth Rollins is going to pull this one out.
Yeah, just for the folks, for anybody who doesn't know, and I'm not a huge MMA fan, I don't watch it either, but even I know that Daniel Cormier, DC, is considered by many to be one of the greatest UFC fighters of all time. He also just so happens to be a massive, lifelong WWE fan, and has been just waiting for that time to get involved and do something with the company. So you're right, this is the perfect use for him.
Yeah, absolutely.
I say Riddle's pulling it out because, well, no, that's not that kind of show. He's gonna win. So
it's not that kind of show, Tony.
No. So I mean, this is right up Matt Riddle's wheelhouse. So he's gonna pull out the victory. See what I did there? He's gonna take the victory because didn't they already have a match on another pay-per-view, and Seth has pretty much won the matches so far with Riddle? Or am I mistaken?
Good question. And that
know.
Speaks to our earlier point. Before Triple H, the stories were so muddled, I don't even know where that feud landed.
Yeah.
But this one I'm paying attention to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Mongrovian Mike says Riddle wins and Orton comes back. RKO to the bro. I don't think Randy Orton comes back to turn on him. I think that maybe he comes back to help Riddle, and then the turn comes down the road, because they still have a lot of money to be made with RK. That's just me.
I'm super hopeful that Orton comes back soon, and it'd be great if we got like a random complete surprise about it. But we haven't gotten anything that indicates that he's ready to come back yet.
Yep.
All right.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Dem.
No, what's the next match you wanted to talk about?
I want to talk about the Bianca Belair and Bayley match because it's a ladder match, right, for the SmackDown Women's Championship. The Raw Women's Championship. I'm sorry. I always get the two confused because Ronda and Liv is for the SmackDown and Bayley and Bianca. I think it's really cool that a women's championship match is being a ladder match at Extreme Rules. Both of them are extremely talented, but ladder matches are always scary to me. So I'm going to be really interested to see how the match is put together, and I think Bayley's going to win this one.
Ooh, I don't know. I was thinking about this, and I may have to agree with you about Bayley winning. I think it's going to be a great match. They're both, I think, just at the top of their game right now. Since Bayley came back, she's shown a whole other side of her personality. We also, unfortunately, saw her, kind of halfway dissing our friend Izzy on Twitter. If you didn't see that.
Shout out to Izzy and her family. That was uncalled for.
Yeah, shout out to Izzy. Izzy's doing big things, so I'm super proud of her. But yeah, I think Bayley does get this one, but I think it's gonna be a battle. I think we're probably gonna see, a lot of, maybe almost, Bianca goes up the ladder and almost gets it, but not quite.
I don't think almost is in this match.
No, almost isn't on. No, the Giant.
Thanks. I'm picking Bayley on this one. Tony?
I have to agree with both of you. I feel like Bayley has been away from WWE for a while, being injured, and her coming back and forming Damage Control. She is showing a different side of her personality, a more snarky side. I feel like it's going to be a great match. I feel like Bianca has had a long run with the title, but I think it's time that we see Bayley with the championship. So I predict Bayley winning tonight.
The other thing I wanted to add too is Bianca is an absolute powerhouse. I think you're going to see some feats of strength with her wielding the ladders, and you're going to see some craziness around that. So I think they're going to be able to really focus her strength in this match.
Right.
Yeah, and I just want to piggyback on what Tony said about Bayley like showing a snarkier side of her personality. I like that. I love Bayley's snarky side. Us snarky bitches got to stick together. Anyway.
I think the match that I'm probably least excited for is the six-man tag team match. This is the Brawling Brutes versus Imperium, and I like the matchup, but they're not really. I haven't really seen. It seems like every week there's been this pull apart, and it's hard for me to get invested in their story. Which is when we talk Imperium, we have to give credit to Sheamus and Gunther for their match this week and their previous match at Clash at the Castle. Those two they've discovered chemistry. It was just an all-out. They beat the shit out of each other, both matches. And I'm here for it.
Okay. Speaking of that, real quick, since we just watched SmackDown earlier, the match was Sheamus and Gunther. Gunther tapped, didn't he?
No,
that was a tap. Was a tap.
No, and here's why. That's called a Brazilian tap. In Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu,
sure.
It is a fake tap to get your opponent to release the pressure. And Jessica Carr was there, and she saw that his hand did not hit the mat.
I'm not buying it.
All right.
I'm not buying it.
It
Sorry,
was strategic.
not buying it. That was
I
a
trust
tap.
Jess. Ref Jess. She's got my vote.
Ref Jess is great. We know that Ref Jess was trained by Bully at the Team 3D Academy in beautiful Danbury, Connecticut.
Mm-hmm. We've seen her wrestle. She wrestled here in Charlotte.
But
Yeah, signing up new students now.
however, that was a tap. Okay.
A fake tap. I agree.
No, that was a tap. He went.
Yeah, 2. It has to be 3. And on the third one, he put his hand up. She said it. They'll explain it on TV. Just watch.
Okay.
Just you can.
Anywho, yes, I'm really thoroughly enjoying the whole Sheamus and Gunther Walter. Rivalry here. They definitely have found a groove with each other. On this
Grooves in the heart.
match, grooves in the heart. Okay.
Sorry.
On this match, oh God. I think I have to give it to Imperium on this one. I think they're just like on a dominating trailblaze, and I just think they have to keep it going. I think they have to keep the momentum.
Well, I think I'm going to go with the Brawling Brutes on this one. I do agree that Imperium has a lot of momentum, but I'm just too big a fan of everything that Butch does. So I just want Butch to win.
I want him to get his name back.
Yeah. Maybe he'll win his name back.
Not going to
Maybe
happen.
a name on a pole match. That's what they need to have.
Let's call a sign, Tony.
So, even though I love Sheamus and I wish they would push him to the moon, I believe that Imperium is going to take this match tonight because Imperium is just too imposing, and it's just that's the way I see it happening tonight. Is Gunther's he's got the title, Imperium is just imposing, standing behind him. So I just feel like Imperium's got this tonight.
Yeah, I would agree. So real quick, kind of side note, just because my, as Tommy would say, my crazy fan brain. Since we mentioned name change with Pete Dunne, we got a name change with LA Knight.
We did.
How about that? And so someone said in Discord earlier, I can't remember if it was last night or this morning, that I thought was a really great point, that it was the slow bringing back LA Knight over the course of multiple weeks was definitely the right way to do a name change. Like, you can do a name change, just do it the proper way. Like we saw, first of all, none of us like the Maximum Male Models. I don't know if anyone liked the Maximum Male Models thing. And
I didn't.
It was even furthermore ridiculous that LA Knight was placed into that ridiculous gimmick. And his name changed. And so, but we saw the slow progression where it was like he was hinting at that he, wasn't feeling it anymore. And over the course of multiple weeks, and then finally last night at SmackDown, he introduced himself as LA Knight.
Agreed.
Beautiful.
And so today is the 3rd anniversary of the debut of NWA Power. And, Mrs. Front Row and I were there for the first 4 or 5 seasons in the arena. And during that first season, we got to meet at Eli Drake and see him perform and all the stuff that he did with James Storm. The guy is ridiculously talented. The stuff that he did at the podium in NWA was next level. And to see what he was doing in NXT as LA Knight, I was super happy for him. So, like you said, for them to slowly tell you the story of him reverting of his character of LA Knight coming back, instead of just showing up as a new person the next week, it made sense to me. I'm excited for him. And I think Triple H probably must have a lot of confidence in him to do something cool with the character. So yeah, I'm excited for him too.
Definitely.
Oh yeah, charisma, 1000% charisma.
So I know we've got the Drew McIntyre and Karrion Kross. I'm a huge fan of Karrion Kross. I'm glad that they get a full entrance this week. I despise strap matches, so I'm not super excited about this, but I know people are, so enjoy. Just not my thing.
I am. Real quick, I just want to mention on Karrion Kross. So I said this to Seth earlier when we were watching SmackDown. That full entrance is just redonkulous.
Yeah.
And the part that Scarlett plays in it, like her performance makes the entire thing. Like, we've obviously seen him without her and how that did not go well. Like, she is such an integral part of what he does. And I said this to Seth, Tony, you'll agree, since, we got to have that conversation with him. Knowing that he's such a nice guy makes it so much better to see him like put on that performance like that.
Yes, it was such an amazing time we had at Jimmy's in February. Was it February when we met him?
January. I think it may have been.
We got to meet him.
Yeah, it was February.
Our waitress actually knew we were wrestling fans, and she went and put a word into him. Next thing you know, we're eating our food, and all of a sudden we look at the head of the table, and there's Karrion Kross standing there, and we got to talk to him for about 15 minutes. Just
it was
shoot questions off of him. It was awesome.
It was shortly after he did the first Busted Open interview after he left WWE. Yeah,
it was the week after he did it. The week after he did it.
So we talked to him about that interview that he had just done on Busted Open about leaving WWE.
Right.
He was such a nice guy, so funny, so nice, so like eloquent. So that makes it all the better.
Right. And I'm just so happy to see him on TV doing what he does and getting the proper entrance, just treated the way he needs to be treated. And I cannot wait. I'm predicting Karrion Kross going over Drew McIntyre tonight.
I agree.
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely. Also, another thing about Scarlett is I know once in a while it's brought up that they don't really have like valets or like managers that they used to, other than like Paul Heyman is, in the manager role. Scarlett, while we know she can wrestle, she gives that kind of like old school valet feel, that she comes out with his entrance. She's an integral part of his entrance. And then she's, kind of there guiding him through the whole match. That's something that we don't see very often these days anymore.
Right.
Yeah, and I think part of it too is, the idea of a valet just having in 2022, just to have a woman come out dressed in a provocative way, but not really provide any value doesn't really work. But when she was in NXT with him, she was in the office, she was fighting for him, she was agenting for him, like she was an active part of their partnership. So I expect Triple H will probably, we'll get to see that side of her as well.
Yeah, it definitely works for them. It wouldn't work for everyone, but it works for them.
Yeah. Right. So I know we only got a couple minutes left, but I did want to, I know the Judgment Day versus Dominic, and I'm sorry, Rhea Ripley and all that stuff. Like that match will be fun. But I did really want to focus as we're running down on time. I wanted to focus on this big match between Liv and Ronda, because I feel like since Ronda's return, this run, we've gotten a very raw. We've got a very honest Ronda. We've gotten to hear from her in her own words, which is different than her previous run, and she's scary. Like the stuff that she did with the security guards, even that one time when they did the pull apart. At one point, the security guards we know are typically professional wrestlers who are hired to be extras, not telling tales, right? But there was a couple of moments where guys were like, I'm not doing this. Like, I'm not grabbing this woman because she's gonna kick my ass. Like, she was kicking people. She knocked that one guy clear across the ring with that stomp kick. Like, I'm sure he was hurt. Like, maybe not damaged, but definitely hurt. So to see Liv step up in this way, even though she's the champion in an Extreme Rules match, man, I honestly don't know what to expect. On paper, Ronda should destroy Liv, but she's lost to her twice already. So I don't know. It's going to be a really, really interesting match. And are we going to see someone like Shayna interfere?
Yeah, I mean, I know I said it last week. I'm just not buying Liv Morgan as the champion. And I'm definitely not buying her as someone who can legitimately beat Ronda Rousey. I don't know. Nothing against Liv. She's great. She's fine. I don't have any specific qualms with her. She does what she does, but Ronda is just on another caliber that she can't compete with yet.
Yeah. Ronda is definitely, since she's come back, she's definitely showing a more aggressive side, and she's trying to get Shayna Baszler on the same page with her. We'll see what's going to happen in the near future with that. But as far as tonight's match, I definitely see Ronda going over Liv tonight, because Liv's not beating Ronda again. She's had that cash in on her. In real life, Liv wouldn't stand a chance against Ronda. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. But I see Ronda going over tonight.
Yeah, because if we talk real life, there's like maybe 3 or 4 men on the roster who could go toe to toe with her, and none of the rest of them, and none of the women. Shayna has publicly said, and Shayna was at one point one of the best grapplers in the world. She lost to Ronda in practice all the time. So, but in a pro wrestling perspective, an Extreme Rules match, you bring weapons into it, and weapons do tend to level the playing field in some ways. So I think that's the variable that's going to make it more believable. So
Right.
All right, guys, we got about 1 more minute before the pay-per-view. Anything else you want to say to our folks here? And thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight.
All I got to say is put those wings on, get them ready to go, because you're about to have a very entertaining pay-per-view coming up.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, I second that. I absolutely second that.
Awesome. All right, Deb, where can everybody find you on the socials?
At That's So Debonair on the Twitter machine, and Truth Resists Simplicity on Instagram.
Tony?
At Tony Justice AJFA, and if you're a Metallica fan, like I know a few of us are in here, you know what that means. Ooh!
Ooh, yeah!
And I am PW Front Row across all socials, and you can see we are at Nation's Corner on Twitter and at The Nation's Corner across all other platforms. Please like and subscribe, and we're going to see y'all next week. Have a good one.